here, we can see that we did take out. So the one positive here, and this is what's interesting, right? So this area here, and let me just draw some rectangles here. So this area right here, that was where FTX collapse began. Here, notice how when we came back to that, it was resistance. It was tough for the markets to break through, but eventually it did. Look at where we find ourselves back to, right at that same level. So this is an important level for Bitcoin. If there's one level you're following that could tell us there's a bull market here, if this level holds and we can go take out the high right here from which was around 24,300, that would be a positive. If this yellow line breaks and price starts trading below, you're honestly probably headed back to sub 20,000 on Bitcoin. So this level, again, we'll call it like 21,400. Watch to see if that level holds for the next week or so. If it doesn't hold and we break, be very careful.
And in this video, we will also talk about something shady.
To the office of Chairman Gary Gensler 2 days before his Senate testimony back in September of 2021. The email from Warren's economic policy advisor includes a list of questions. Get this, a list of questions that Senator Warren planned to ask, along with suggested answers for the chairman of the SEC. The advisor also wrote, quote, "Let me know if you're okay with the questions as currently written." 2 days later, she sent a follow-up, quote, "Let me know if it's looking like the chair has any issue with the framing of the questions. Definitely don't want to put him in a tough spot," end quote. And it appears the chairman didn't have any issue with these questions because Senator Warren asked almost verbatim from the email. Check this out.
Chair Gensler, advocates say crypto markets are all about financial inclusion, but the people who are most economically vulnerable are the ones who are most likely to have to withdraw their money the fastest when the market drops. Does this sound like the path to financial inclusion to you?
Look at that. It even says the answer below and what the answer is supposed to be. So Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler are lying and plotting under oath. The US government is attacking crypto like never before, and as days go by, we start finding more evidence that there's a big plot behind everything happening now. A few months ago, people were theorizing that the FTX collapse was already part of it, as Sam Bankman-Fried and his girlfriend were known for their donations to political parties with which his mother was affiliated. Some people like Mark Yusko even called them useful idiots as they seemed to be used as puppets in a bigger scheme. Now, we see the Securities and Exchange Commission, known as SEC, attacking Binance, and in this video, we will have Gareth Soloway react to all of this and give his point of view on what to expect from crypto and Bitcoin after these new events. This was Gareth's reaction after watching the Fox News video.
Crypto is a way for people to free themselves from the handcuffs of this governmental fiat currency BS and all that. So, I mean, in the very least, like, you know, they can try to do what they want to it. I really don't think that they can destroy it at this point. They could try to regulate, but I think that for the most part, it's going to continue regardless.
The SEC just filed a lawsuit against Paxos, the issuer of the Binance stablecoin, alleging that BUSD is a security and should have been registered legally as such. We have yet to determine the full implications of this process or how this will affect Binance and crypto as a whole, being the BUSD one of the biggest stablecoins in the space. Let's see what Gareth has to say about this.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it's more of a matter of like kind of understanding the underlying reason they did that. What's the reasoning? Are they trying to protect people, or are they saying, you know? So for me, I don't know honestly enough about it versus to make that decision on whether it was a good or bad thing. You know, again, I think that the SEC has a tendency to overreach a little bit versus letting the natural market take its course. But at the same time, you know, I don't know if they know about certain shady activities that were going on that maybe aren't okay. So yeah, it's a tough one. You know, these type of situations, unless you really have the behind the scenes information, it's so hard to make that judgment. that for this market to finally bottom, you need clarity, you need transparency, and you need basically the ability to understand what the rules are. And for like, a mom and pop buying a half or a quarter or a third of a Bitcoin, I don't think it matters that much. It's kind of like a long shot, like a lottery ticket. But we have to remember that as much as we don't want to have it be this way, institutional money, big money, the billions, the trillion-dollar players, they're the ones that are going to push crypto in one direction or the other, right? So those players are not coming near this space with significant money. And it's not that they don't want to. I think that deep down, hedge fund managers, they want to be involved in crypto. They see lots of potential upside in crypto, but they can't do it legally, right? They have this fiduciary responsibility. And once FTX collapsed, they're in this position of saying, well, how can I don't want to get in trouble for putting money into crypto. And then the SEC comes out and says, hey, this is illegal or this can't be done, AKA what they just did to Kraken, right? So I think that's the bigger issue. So I do agree that until this cloud is out of the way, people should expect Bitcoin and crypto overall to not have a major bull run. That you have this scenario where right now crypto's gotten crushed, people have gotten hurt with FTX. Like there's going to be more vocal naysayers, but I still think that a huge amount of politicians, when it comes down to it, recognize how many jobs are now reliant on blockchain technology. You have all these big companies like Microsoft getting into the mix here and all this lobbyist money too from these companies. So I think when it comes back to it, that's what's going to rule the day. It's going to be jobs, right? Because how does a politician get reelected? It all comes back to, are they preserving jobs? Are they keeping jobs and helping sectors become bigger and bigger, especially in the US? Because, right, we don't need China or we don't need other countries taking the advantage here. We've got to be on the leading edge of blockchain technology.
Now, let's look at the Bitcoin charts with Gareth as usual. According to some people, Bitcoin had its first ever death cross.
But basically, all right, so let's imagine here's a death cross, right? So the death cross is right at this pivot point right in the middle. The only time that it's important is when price is coming up to it. Then that's a no-brainer short where it's going to fall to the downside. So those type of situations I really pay attention to. But like you said, golden cross on the daily, a death cross on the weekly, how do you even figure that one out when there's multiple signals in both? The one thing I will tell you is that I haven't bought this rally, meaning I don't buy that all of a sudden we're in a new bull market yet in crypto, right? So the main issues I have is that while this was an absolutely remarkable rally up, in the scheme of things, if you zoom out on the chart, it's still a relatively small move, and you could arguably say that this move here is the same size as this move here. I mean, it's not much different in dollar amount to the upside, nor is it this low to this high, right? So for me, it's nice to see, but it was coming off of the December kind of tax loss selling. So once December's over and people have sold for tax purposes to reduce what they owe the government, there's just naturally this void of sellers. So it allows for rallies to take place in the stock market, in the crypto space. And then again, we don't have transparency. We hear, now Kraken's being targeted. We hear all these other things. And so at this point, I'm not ready to buy the whole narrative of, we're now in a new bull market and here we go. I want to see more proof of it before I put myself behind that. Yeah, so one of the interesting things that you bring up is sentiment, right? And sentiment is so important. And what I didn't like about this rally is that we literally, what did we go up 35% off the lows? You had the same bullish sentiment in the market that we had it when we were at 65,000. And that people jumped on the bull bandwagon far too fast. If you go back to 2001 after the dot-com collapse, 2009, the first move in any beginning of a bull market that occurs, most people are scared. It's shitless. I don't know if I can say that on this program, but hopefully I can. All right. Yeah, so they're scared shitless about that first move. It's too scary. They think, oh my goodness, this has to be a fake out. In this situation with crypto, everyone was like, new bull market. Here we go. Here it goes back to all-time highs. That's a dead indicator. It's not a new bull market, right? People haven't been, gone through the despair and the kind of the giving up phase of a bear market. So that coupled with the fact that we now need to establish ourselves and actually make higher highs, that would be something that would get my attention. Here we can see that we did take out, so the one positive here, and this is what's interesting, right? So this area here, and let me just draw some rectangles here. So this area right here, that was where FTX collapse began. Here, notice how when we came back to that, it was resistance. It was tough for the markets to break through, but eventually it did. Look at where we find ourselves back to, right at that same level. So this is an important level for Bitcoin. If there's one level you're following that could tell us there's a bull market here, if this level holds and we can go take out the high right here from which was around 24,300, that would be a positive. If this yellow line breaks and price starts trading below, you're honestly probably headed back to sub 20,000 on Bitcoin. So this level, again, we'll call it like 21,400. Watch to see if that level holds for the next week or so. If it doesn't hold and we break, be very careful.
So are we still going lower to the 9 or 10,000 price target Gareth predicted a few weeks ago?
I actually am still in the camp that we still have some further downside to go. Yeah, definitely in that camp. Again, just because I haven't seen the flush out, and one of the biggest concerns I have about the crypto market is not that we're not going to get regulation and transparency. It's actually my worry about the overall economy and then the impact on the stock market. So what I'm seeing coming in the future is that we're going to slip into a recession, right? Probably second half of 2023, we go into a recession. The markets are going to turn to the Federal Reserve and say, okay, could you print us out of this recession like you've done every down move in the economy over the last 15, 16 years? And the Fed is going to say, guys, we would love to, but the problem is inflation's still, let's say, 3% or 3.5%. So we can't. Now the market's faced with what I would say is like this long, drawn-out recession period where earnings are going down. And you might say, well, what the heck do earnings have to do with crypto? Well, the problem is if investors start to dump stocks, and we say, let's say we see another 25% down move in the S&P, now figure out how crypto holds up in face of that, right? So if we see a mass exodus of risk assets, it's hard to imagine crypto doesn't get caught in that wave.
Let's have a quick look at Ethereum, too, before continuing with Bitcoin and having Gareth give his price targets if we finally have a bull run for some reason.
What I'm seeing here on the ETH chart is you're starting to break this upward channel. We broke that line right here, and then we're now breaking this little low right here. So there is a level where you would look for a technical bounce on ETH, and it's right down here, right? And what you can see here is that if you connect the lows right here, there's an upsloping trend line. And if you connect this area, there's a flat trend line. And one of my favorite things about this is that trend lines coincide. When you have trend lines that work together and they merge, it becomes an even greater support. So think about it like this. If you have a wood floor below you and you take a sledgehammer to it, at some point you're going to break through that wood floor. If you were to put a wood floor with a cement floor underneath, it's going to be really hard to sledgehammer through that thing. And so that's what the equivalent of two trend lines converging right here would be. So on a technical basis, if I saw a dump on ETH to around 1320, 1330, I'd be a buyer for a bounce there on that chart. Absolutely.
What if the rally continues in Bitcoin, and are we all wrong?
So there are some really important levels that if we did continue up, I would watch for. And the first thing I would pay attention to is the lows from 2021 right here, when we had that mega first surge and we came down and we kind of sideways right around 30,000. And then we had the second up wave and then we kind of came down here. And if we put a trend line right through these, I mean, look at how many of these lows it connects through all the way through. All right. So you have this area here, and then all of these right in here, and then all the way this sideways chop right there. So if we were to get above 30,000 and we were to hold above, and I just don't mean like, you know, one day above doesn't matter to me. It's can the price establish itself above, essentially start building support there. And if we were to get above 30,000, I think you have to start taking the possibility of a low in the chart at the 15 to 16,000 level seriously. So that would be my first major technical level to watch.
And that's it for today. So what's your take on all that's happening with the SEC and these politicians' plots against crypto? Let us know in the comments below, and please leave a like and subscribe. Thanks.